Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry because it was again and again asking for passcode and
No issue, sir. No issue, sir.
Wrong passcode.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's the awesome, mind-blowing virtual international conference, Recontextualizing Entrepreneurship and Business for the Future Issues and Challenges 2021. And this very warm good morning. I'm Dia, is pleased to welcome each and everyone to this mind-blowing conference event. Today, we are providing a common platform to share your new ideas, trends about the business and entrepreneurship. As we all know, this pandemic has hit the entrepreneurs at all over the globe, right? But here we are providing an opportunity to share about the issues and challenges faced by the entrepreneurs ahead. This program is organized by the Department of Commerce of St. Aloysius College. St. Aloysius College is an institute of higher education under Calicut of Kerala. Today, our Department of Commerce is enriched with a lot of talented teachers. The Department of Commerce is playing a wide role in building up the fame of the college. Before starting this program, we need the blessing of God. So I would like to welcome Sneha Francis for the prayer.
Miss, is it audible? Miss?
Yes, it's audible.
Okay, thank you. You are my refuge. You are my fortress. You are my friend in need. You are my God. I will worship you with all of my heart. I will seek your face all through my life. I will serve you, Lord, with all that I am. Here I am. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am. You are my Savior. You are my healer. You are my strength in need. You are my God. I will worship you with all of my heart. I will sing your praise with all of my heart. I will worship you with all I have. Here I am. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am, oh Lord. Here I am.
Thank you, Sneha. Before starting this event, I would like to welcome each and everyone again and again. And here, I'm going to welcome the head of the department, Ms. Brigida AG, to deliver the welcome speech.
respected principal, respected chief guest, Professor T. Mallikarjunappa, resource person, Dr. Matthew Pauley, principal, Dr. Betsy Pauley, IQAC coordinator, Sri Melvin Luke George, program convener, Dr. Libison Gaby, all the faculty members, research scholars, and my dear students. Good morning and a warm welcome to all this gathering. Thanks to all joining this event. Our department is one of the best departments which provide BCom Finance under Calicut University. Last years, we got some university ranks. Many of our students got placement in different banks and institutions. Last year, we conducted many international and national webinars. But this is the first international conference in the history of our department, which is completely conducted on a digital platform due to COVID-19 pandemic. The theme of this conference is entrepreneurship, it's innovation, the sustainable development. Entrepreneurial activity help the economic development through large-scale employability. We will get an insight on issues and the challenges for entrepreneurs. We hope this conference will help the participant to expand your knowledge. I request all the participants to make use of these 2 days to the best of your ability. It is my pleasure to welcome all the eminent speakers, guests, and participants from different walks of life you have come here to share your knowledge. In this occasion, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Professor T. Mallikarjunappa, who is the head, Department of Commerce and International Business School of Business Studies, Central University of Kerala. We are grateful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation and become a chief guest of today's program. On behalf of Aloysius fraternity, welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to welcome our respected principal, Dr. Betsy Pauley. I would like to extend gratitude to our principal who granted us the permission to conduct this conference. Your support is a blessing of us. Thank you, ma'am, and welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome our today's key resource person, Dr. Matthew Pauley, Assistant Professor of Entrepreneurship, University of Prince Edward Island, Canada, Director, the Hostetter Center for Enterprise and Entrepreneurship, Leader, Global Entrepreneurship, Monitor, Prince Edward Island Division. We all are happy to got such an eminent person as our resource person. On behalf of Aloysius fraternity, welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to welcome our IQAC coordinator, Sri Melvin Luke George, sir. Thank you, sir, for your full support. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, I would like to welcome our program conference convener, Dr. Libison Gaby. Last few months, he is behind this program and he took his full effort to conduct this program. This conference is the result of his effort. Thank you, sir, and welcome you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome all our faculty members, Mr. Praveen PM, Dr. Prashant AP, Ms. Revati Krishnakumar, Ms. Vinita Davis, and Ms. Nanette Joy. All did their duty very well. Thank you all and welcome you all. Last but not least, I would like to welcome all the faculty members, research scholars, and my dear students. Once again, welcome to all and thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words. And next, I would like to welcome the backbone of the college. As we all know, the backbone means the principal of the college, of St. Aloysius College. With a big round of applause, let me welcome Dr. Betsy Paul C. to address the presidential address.
Thank you, Rajida. Thank you. And am I audible and visible?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm clear, no?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Respected Chief Guest of the Day, Professor Mallikarjunappa. Respected Dr. Matthew Pauley, who is to give the keynote address in this conference. Ms. Rajida A.G., Head of the Department of Commerce. Dr. Libison K.B., convener of this conference. Mr. Melvin Luke George, IQAC Coordinator, St. Aloysius College. Dear faculty and students and research scholars, greetings and a very warm welcome to St. Aloysius College, Elthuruth. Meeting new people is always a delightful experience for us humans. All the more so during these unusual times when we are forced to be confined and distanced even from our closest ones. Yet we humans, we are a resilient lot. We adjust, we adapt, we accommodate newer ways of existence, not just existence, but newer ways for enjoyment, newer ways for interconnectedness. And virtual conferences like these are a boon during these pandemic times when we have learned how to talk with each other from such distances, how to meet new people, how to meet more eminent and more resourceful and capable people from far and wide, and to gain from them a lot. I'm so happy to welcome you all to our verdant campus in this city of Thrissur. St. Aloysius College, as our young comparer had told us, is a first grade college affiliated to the University of Calicut and caters to undergraduate and postgraduate students as well as research scholars. The college is run by fathers of the CMI congregation and is guided by the vision and mission of Saint Kuliakos Elias Chavra, who had established the congregation. Saint Kuliakos was a visionary of the 19th century Kerala, who was a social leader, who was a religious leader, and who was an economic leader of our place, Kerala. And he had pioneered education for all. It was a movement that helped the development of Kerala in all its spheres. The college is situated in the city of Thrissur, which you might all know is famous for its puram, its jewelries, its textile businesses, textile shops. I'm also happy that the Commerce Department, the dedicated and the energetic faculty of the department, is organizing a conference on a very relevant theme during these difficult times. Recontextualizing entrepreneurship and business in the future is a very needed theme to be discussed today, and you have brought in quite eminent resource persons who are well versed in the subject to handle all the technical sessions. I'm very glad and very happy and wish the department all the very best. I have also to say one or two lines more about the topic. Okay, please bear with me. One thing is that there is an irony when salaried teachers are talking about entrepreneurship. But I think anyone who produces something new and something with value to humankind is an entrepreneur. And I think these teachers here are entrepreneurs in that sense. Another thing is that one can be an entrepreneur even without the help of higher education. But then I think an academic background and an exposure to conferences like these will be helpful to future entrepreneurs in that for one, it will help them to think systematically about the present and future implications of their projects to mankind. Number two, it will help them to be aware of the ethical dimensions of the projects that they are launching. I wish the conference the very best and hope that discourses like these will help to nurture entrepreneurship capabilities equivalent to those of Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Steve Jobs from among us. Thank you all. All the very best. Thank you. And once more, welcome to St. Aloysius, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your words. As I told you earlier, she provides a strength to our program. Thank you very much, ma'am. And now we are moving on to the inaugural ceremony. Before that, I know you all are waiting to see him, right? Yes, he is the best example for a best teacher and even awarded for the best teacher in financial management. He is the head of the Department of Commerce and International Business, Central University of Kerala. Yes, with no doubt, I'm so happy to tell his name, Dr. T. Mallikarjunappa. To introduce him, I would like to welcome the most strongest representative from the students, Fenita Joy, to share more about him. Welcome, Fenita.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's my proud privilege to introduce Professor Dr. Mallikarjunappa, sir. Thank you, our head President ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Mallikarjunappa, sir, the head of Department of Commerce and International Business School of Business Studies, Central University of Kerala, Kasaragod, from August 2019 to this present day. Doctor is not a resource person. PhD in Management Science from University of Mysore, Associate Member of the Institute of Cost Accountants in India, 35 years of research experience, 20 students have obtained PhD under his guidance, continuously engaged in research, currently researching in accounting and financial teaching and research experience, 39 years of PG teaching experience, and lot of awards. Best Research Paper Award, publications in national and international journals and edited books, papers presented at national, international seminars, workshops, conference, etc. There is a lot to be about, sir. Now I request our distinguished chief guest, Mr. Mallikarjunappa, sir, to address the gathering. We are awaiting to receive precious inputs from him that can help us to widen our understanding on this topic. With due respect, I call upon Mr. Mallikarjunappa, sir, to speak to us. Thank you.
Is my voice audible? Libison and then
Yes, sir.
others, is
Yes,
my
sir.
voice audible?
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay. I will be sharing my screen, but before that, let me first wish all of you very good morning. I'm sorry, because of me, it was delayed. It was asking for passcode again and again, and it was saying incorrect passcode. So Libison ultimately sent me new, link, and that new link has been working. Libison, shall I share the screen?
Sure, sir, sure.
Yeah. Libison, is the screen visible?
Not yet, sir. We can hear you.
Not visible. But the screen is not visible.
No, sir.
Oh. Okay. My voice is audible, Libison? Hello? Hello?
We don't hear you, sir, right now.
Voice is not audible? What about now, Libison? Libison, what about now?
I can hear, sir. I can hear you.
You are able to hear?
Yes.
Sir,
Hello?
we hear you right now.
You are able to hear me?
Yes, sir, it's audible. Your video is stuck at the screen, yet not shared.
I think there is some problem,
Okay,
and therefore
fine.
I'll just go ahead. Is that fine? I'm sharing the screen. I don't know what is the problem. Just one minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Let me just. My voice is audible now.
Yes, sir, it's audible.
Yeah, what I'll do is I have the PPTs with me, but I don't know, there is some problem, and therefore I'll just go ahead without the PPTs, and maybe I'll share the PPTs with all of you. The principal of the college, all the faculty members, head of the Department of Commerce of St. Aloysius College, and the conference convener, Mr. Libison, Dr. Libison, the keynote speakers, and dear participants and students of St. Aloysius College. Very warm good morning to you all. And if my voice is not audible or if the voice is breaking, you please tell me. I will do something about that. I'll change the place. This is the problem that we experience in the pandemic when we are sitting at our respective homes. Our office, we will have internet connections very well, but at homes, some of these problems. Now, the principal of the college, while introducing the concept of entrepreneurship and then the difficulties and challenges that the entrepreneurs have been facing during this pandemic period, I remember one of the writings about the SMEs, small and medium scale industries, especially in Tamil Nadu, a place called Coimbatore. An SME owner was talking about this, and then he said, we have been having series of challenges. One challenge we've overcome, another challenge we were able to manage. This challenge, I don't think we can really manage. And I'm not going to try again. I'm going to give up my efforts. I will not get back to my business once again. This is the owner of one of the small scale industries. And this is the challenge that most of the entrepreneurs are facing. I'm pandemic alone. There are several cases, several instances where the challenges are faced by the entrepreneurs, and it is not difficult for them to, it is not easy for them to address these challenges. Now, one of the research questions that has been asked again and again in the entrepreneurship research in India and also worldwide, very little is being spoken about women entrepreneurship. And the literature which says that there has been gender bias in the entrepreneurship research, not only in India, but around the world. And therefore, I thought since large number of students and also participants in this conference may be women, and we also have in Kerala a large number of women, I talk about the women entrepreneurship. Now, one of the research questions that we normally ask in entrepreneurship is there a relationship between entrepreneurship and then gender? Is there a relationship between leadership and entrepreneurship? Is there a relationship between education and entrepreneurship? And then I can go on. Is there a relationship between technical education and then entrepreneurship? Are the entrepreneurs born or are they made? So there are several research questions which arise. And researchers around the world have probed about all these issues. But research, at least in terms of the visibility, is when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about the entrepreneurs and then successful entrepreneurs, normally we academicians and also the policymakers have a tendency to quote somebody who has succeeded, somebody who has scaled up their business, somebody who has built the empires and have navigated themselves maybe from small to MNCs. Therefore, we have a tendency to quote perhaps the examples of Bill Gates, examples of Zuckerberg, examples of maybe Reliance, Ambani's, and then many more. But in entrepreneurship, there is a large issue which, according to me, has been ignored. And I'm sure this pandemic has exposed every one of us to these issues. I'm fond of our own father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi, who had always been advocating self-sufficient villages. And therefore, I thought I will address this issue of entrepreneurship in small-scale industries and entrepreneurship, especially with reference to entrepreneurship in the context of women entrepreneurship. Now, service industry is one of the industry which has been growing around the world. And if we see the contribution of the women to service industry, there has been a large scale contribution of women to service industry. But in terms of visibility, I think the visibility has been quite insignificant, both in the policy making and also in terms of the research outputs. Now, the visibility has been insignificant because the enterprises headed by the women have been relatively small scale, but they have made significant contribution in terms of bringing up the family, in terms of contributing to the society, in terms of contributing to the community. And these are the enterprises which, according to me, have been keeping the societies in good stead. And these are being ignored most often. Now, if only the small entrepreneurs, especially women, had not started very small, invisible enterprises, maybe in the villages and small towns, and made contributions for their own family's livelihood, for the society's livelihood, and then for the community's livelihood, I'm sure the large enterprises would not have thrived and survived. Because after all, the large enterprises have become large because you have the buying power that has been the result of the women who are, according to me, the heads of very small and tiny units. So women entrepreneurship, according to me, should be given importance in academic research, at least in future. And I quote some of the examples of the women who have made contributions. In fact, I had the pictures of all these, but I don't know, I have the difficulty of sharing the screen, and therefore I will just quote these examples. I'm sure the students here in India must be knowing this enterprise, but for the benefit of the international audience, we have an enterprise called Biocon. Now, Biocon is headed by, we normally call it as one-man army, headed by one women army. Her name is Kiran Mazumdar Shah. Now, Kiran Mazumdar Shah started this enterprise just in her garage, and then she started expanding. She had absolutely no background of entrepreneurship. She had no family support for all these things, but she started this and she has scaled up. Today, this enterprise is one of the biggest enterprises in biotechnology, biopharmaceuticals, because US FDA has recognized one of the biggest companies in India, which has been recognized by the US drugs. So women can show that there is something that they can contribute, has been showcased by Kiran Mazumdar Shah. Now we have other women, Lijat Papad, which has made significant contribution according to me. This is the contribution of the women who have been working together. And then we have lakhs of enterprises which have been started in the form of SHGs, self-help groups in the village. This is the group of women, maybe 5 women, 10 women, 20 women in certain cases, who have started sharing their own experiences, started their own enterprises. They make contributions to this, are arranged by them through their own members' contribution. And sometimes the formal institutions help them, but most of the times they are all self-helping groups. And these groups have been making significant contributions in the village India. Then we have many women who have made contributions. Shanaz Hussain, who has started in terms of the herbal beauty care. She has entered into women beauty care, and they have now entered into men beauty care. She started with a very, very small scale, and now she has expanded not only in India, but also in the international area. Therefore, according to me, the larger questions of small enterprises contributing to the economic development and then keeping the entire societies in good stead and the families in good stead and making contributions should be focused in our academic research. And I would say the colleges which are located in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, maybe in the village areas. Thrissur itself, for example, St. Aloysius College itself can take up some of the small enterprises started by women, and how the beginning was made, how they have been struck, what are the challenges, what are the issues that the women have been facing. Are they facing the issues relating to finance? Are they facing the issues relating to marketing the products? Are they facing the issues relating to the labor? Because labor has been one of the biggest problems that the SMEs have been facing these days. Many of the laborers do not want to work in SMEs, but they want to seek white collar jobs elsewhere, maybe in the biggest enterprises. And educated youth do not want to get back to the SMEs, but we do have examples where educated youth have started, made the beginning. And I would say if you are able to make this type of surveys and then maybe report these results, surveys maybe in very remote corners, how these SMEs have been contributing to the community development, society development, and how the families have been able to thrive because of the contribution by the women, contribution by maybe small scale entrepreneurs. Now the challenges are enormous. I'm sure the keynote speakers and then the paper presenters would be making elaborate presentations on all those things. I will not go in detail about this. I'm extremely happy that St. Aloysius College has taken this initiative to organize two-day international conference on recontextualizing the entrepreneurship and business for future. Recontextualizing, according to me, you need to recontextualize the entrepreneurship in terms of the contribution of the small people, especially women, for making the society a good society to live in. This is my view on recontextualizing the entrepreneurship and business, because if the communities have been able to thrive even in the most difficult period, I think that is the biggest contribution. And this sector is one of the biggest employment generating sector. Self-employment, that is there. And then you also have large number of youth which are working for these things. They may not realize that they are working for an enterprise, but that is the way they have been contributing. So according to me, recontextualizing with special reference to the small owners, and that too especially women, should be one of the focuses. I would not say that it should be the only focus, one of the focuses that the entrepreneurship research should have in these difficult times and also in future. It also has another significance. We have seen the enterprises which are too big. There was a saying, it is too big to fail. But we have the best examples of Lehman Brothers, which was too big, and then it collapsed under its own weight. But for the support that was extended by the US Federal Reserve, I'm sure Citibank would have collapsed. And then series of enterprises, world-class automobile companies from Detroit, Ford, Daimler, Chrysler, most of these enterprises would not be existing today, but for the support that was extended by the US Federal Reserve and then the US government. While writing about these enterprises in Detroit, Paul Krugman, the Nobel laureate in economics, writes, I'm afraid of two Ds. One is the Detroit, the other one is the deflation. This writing was during international economic crisis that the US faced and spread to the entire onwards. We are still struggling to come to terms, and then this pandemic has hit the entire world. So large enterprises, in fact, can fail. But then the small enterprises, because they are not scaled up, because they know the geographical territory to which they are catering, are unlikely to fail, and they are. So let's report these stories and recontextualize the entrepreneurship and then business for future, including the challenges that these enterprises have been facing. Thank you very much. And I wish the two-day international conference all the success. May God bless all of you. I also thank the St. Aloysius College, the principal, head of the department, Dr. Libison, and all of you, the entire community of St. Aloysius College, for asking me to inaugurate this international conference. I'm extremely happy to inaugurate, and I wish the 2 days deliberation all the success. May God bless all of you. And let's all hope that this pandemic will disappear from the world and we will all be safe. Stay safe, stay healthy. May God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Your words were really inspiring, even for the young entrepreneurs. I'm very happy to say and introduce you to this event. You spread the real meaning to everyone in this conference. Thank you very much, sir. And now it's time to deliver the felicitation. For that, I would like to welcome the IQAC coordinator of St. Aloysius College, Mr. Melvin Luke, to the screen. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, your voice is clear.
Respected dignitaries, teachers, students, and all participants. Richard Rogers, a famous architect, once said, "The only way forward, if we are going to improve the quality of the environment, is to get everybody involved." Maybe it was said in a different context, but I think it is very apt for our context today. The quality of our college environment has been raised many notches up by bringing together pioneers from across the globe to this conference. As the coordinator of the internal quality cell of our college, I really commend the efforts of the Commerce Department, its HOD, Ms. Rajida AG, Dr. Libison KB, especially Dr. Libison KB, the conference convener and the brain behind the conference, and other department members in organizing this virtual international conference on recontextualizing entrepreneurship and business for the future, issues and challenges. I'm very sure that the fruits of this international conference will reverberate not only in our college, but also in every institution represented here. I wish the invited speakers, organizers, and all the participants a very productive 2 days of virtual conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And next, it's time for the vote of thanks. As you all heard a single name from the beginning, right? Yes, the strongest person who stood behind this entire program. I think you all are waiting to see him, right? Yes. Proudly, I'm welcoming Dr. Libison KB to the screen.
Thank you, Dia. Professor Mallikarjunappa from Central University of Kerala, our dear principal, Dr. Betsy Paul, keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Matthew Pauley, Head of the Department of Commerce, Ms. Rajida AG, Mr. Melvin Luke George, IQAC Coordinator, St. Aloysius College, also Assistant Professor, Department of History, faculty members, my colleagues, research scholars, and dear students. The DNA of thinking of 21st century entrepreneurs should change. Massive changes are happening across the globe. So this is the motivation behind to organize this sort of conference where we would be able to deliberate on modern day entrepreneurship. I am happy that we got a good response for our initiative. We have paper presentation sessions coming up, and we are able to bring together best of the best speakers across the globe. As Professor Mallikarjunappa rightly pointed out, we have to recontextualize. The pandemic time actually help us to relearn what we have learned earlier. So this is the time to relearn, to look forward for new systems, new institutions, new practices. So I am so happy today to express vote of thanks to all who have helped us to organize this conference. Professor Mallikarjunappa, when I contacted him, he positively responded. The first mail, he responded, okay, you go ahead with your schedule. I will be there, don't worry. So a person of his stature immediately responded, and he addressed us. He kindly inaugurated our virtual international conference today. Thank you, sir, for your presence. We are so happy that you have joined us and addressed our gathering. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your valuable presence. Once again,
yes, thank you, Libison. Thank you.
Professor Mallikarjunappa.
Thank you, thank you.
I should thank Dr. Pauley, who has joined us all the way from Canada. As you all know, this is the midnight time over there, but he agreed to join us and talk to our students and young research scholars. So he is with us. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Pauley, and we look forward for your keynote address right after this inaugural ceremony. So welcome you to this gathering. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Betsy Paul, our dear principal, who always encourages us to initiate this sort of programs, and irrespective of all personal inconveniences, she joined us and she delivered the presidential address. Thank you, Miss, for all your support, and I extend all thankfulness of the department. Next,
thank you.
Next, I would like to thank my friend and my colleague, Mr. Melvin Luke George, who is in charge of internal quality assurance cell of our college. And he is happy with us. He wants us to organize this sort of programs in the future as well. And he is extending all the support, and he is with us. He addressed our gathering. And thank you for joining us, Mr. Melvin. And for the sake of formality, I express thankfulness to our head of the department, Ms. Regida AG, who is supporting every activities of the department. She involves in every aspects of our planning and never say the word called no. She always say yes, okay, we do that, we do this, we do that. So she is with us. Thank you for all your support, head of the department, Ms. Regida AG. And I thank all my colleagues who are with us right now, supporting us in various forms, and non-teaching staffs and students, research scholars. And I should thank the paper presenters who are going to present their thoughts and deliberate issues in modern day entrepreneurship. We have two tracks, one coming up in the afternoon, the other one tomorrow. So we have around 25 to 30 research scholars and faculty who will deliberate their thoughts in these sessions. I thank them for putting their efforts to prepare a paper and sending to us for review. And we look forward for their thoughts in the coming up deliberations. So I thank all paper presenters who are willing to present their thoughts in our conference. And I thank all the participants. Right now, our Zoom room is full, and we have YouTube live streaming. So a lot of participants are there, joined us right now. So I thank everyone who supported, who helped to make this event a grand success. Thank you all. Have a good day. May God bless you all.
Libison, I'll be leaving this meeting and then I'll re-enter because, there is some visibility problem.
Before moving on to the next introduction, let me introduce the upcoming events. Before lunch, we will have 2 sessions. After the break, we will continue with the paper presentation. Okay, then let's move on to the next phase of this event. Everyone is waiting for this session, right? We are so lucky to have this person for this session. I think you might have seen his face. With a beautiful smile, he's spreading the smile to everyone in this event. Yes, Dr. Matthew Pauley, the Assistant Professor of Entrepreneurship at University of Prince Edward Island, Canada. You can see his face like a beautiful smile, right? I'm so happy to see his smiling face. To invite him and to share more about him, I would like to welcome Ms. Nana Choi to the screen.
All right, hopefully everybody can see me here. And then I'll just bring up the presentation. Thank you everyone for having me. Yes, it is 2 o'clock in the morning here in Canada, but I couldn't be more thrilled to be here sharing with you a little bit about entrepreneurship. And just going into this session.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning to one and all. It's my great pleasure to introduce our resource person, Dr. Matthew Pauley, Assistant Professor of Entrepreneurship, University of Prince Edward Island, Canada. We are so proud to introduce such a person who have immense knowledge and experience in entrepreneurship. Dr. Matthew Pauley successfully completed his PhD from University of St. Andrews, UK, on the topic, The Experience of Entrepreneurial Exit, an exploratory study of average, micro, and small business owners. He finished his MBA from USA and also completed his PG diploma in research methods from UK. He also showed his skill on the area of entrepreneurship, social innovation, and green energy. He was also honored with many prestigious awards. Winner, Textbook Champion, Open Education Resource Development Program. Winner of St. Andrews Students Association. He also secured a national level award from American University and colleges. He also secured many scholarships in the field of research. He also gave tremendous contributions by way of publication, conference papers, and textbooks. He is currently working on a research paper exploring entrepreneurial exit, experience, a typology, and test. We are so proud to receive today a resource person who have countless contributions towards entrepreneurial research and have valuable insight. Once again, with due respect, I welcome you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's probably the best welcoming I've ever received. So thank you very much. I'm starting to blush a little bit with all the accomplishments there. But I'm going to start the presentation here. Let me know if you can see it. I believe you can. And as with most of my international presentations, I try and leave the closed captions on the bottom of the presentation so you can see them. I'm guessing Libsyn is going to let me know if there are any problems, but I haven't heard anything yet, so we should be good to go. So thank you everyone again for having me, and welcome to this conversation about starting a business in a global marketplace. And again, this presentation is idea generation to execution. So it's how to start that first idea, or how to get the idea that you already have and get it going. And a little bit of background about myself. the map that you see in front of you is all of the places that I have contributed some sort of academic research or consulting or publication, et cetera. So I've been very fortunate to have lived on 3 different continents. I've delivered academic research on 5 different continents all over the world, including India now. So that's quite fantastic to me. And no matter where you are in the world, the lessons that we learn are pretty similar. There are certainly certain deviations that change, but absolutely what was said earlier, female entrepreneurship, minority entrepreneurship, international entrepreneurship are certainly areas that are starting to gain traction and making very significant contributions in the world. Right now, I'm actually working on another project on Indigenous entrepreneurship, and I'm looking at the history of the Indigenous peoples of Canada and their contributions to the economic marketplace, because it is different than how traditional Western business takes place. A lot of Indigenous entrepreneurs are socially motivated. It's not so much about making the maximum capital as much as it is just feeding themselves and enjoying life. So very different context in how we look at entrepreneurship. So what are we doing here today? And again, we are going to look at the different characteristic traits of an entrepreneur. How do we find a business idea? And when we do get that business idea, how do we develop it into a business model that can be applied in the global market? And develop a strategic framework for how the business can grow to achieve its full potential. So a couple of the textbooks that I use for teaching entrepreneurship and educating on how to start a business. The one on the left is New Venture Creation by Paul Burns. And the one on the right is a textbook that I just recently completed. The textbook on the right is actually free. It doesn't cost any money. And that's a big initiative that I take part in, is open educational resources. And that's creating content and information for people all over the world that can have access to it. And a big part of that is reducing the cost to education. And again, one of the things that was said earlier today is, education can be a very important part on maximizing a business idea. You don't have to have a formal education, but it will help develop your skills quicker and hopefully create a sustainable business. And just to go back here, if you do look up the title of this textbook on even a Google search or UPEI search, you will have access to not only this textbook, but 2 other textbooks that I've written. So what or who is an entrepreneur? And there's a lot of different definitions to what or who an entrepreneur is, but the 2 fundamental definitions, you have Joseph Schumpeter in 1934, who basically said it's creating something new. So it's recognizing a deficiency in the marketplace and creating something new, expanding on a market. Then in 1979, you have Israel Kirzner, who said it's not just about creating new things. It could be taking something that already exists and making it better. And that's how you're going to maximize that profit opportunity in the marketplace. Building off of those 2 fundamental definitions, we have other types of entrepreneurs, such as necessity. You're not able to find a job anywhere else, and so you have to create a business in order to feed yourself. So again, that's necessity-based entrepreneurship. You have entrepreneurial behavior that's looked at by many scholars. Of note, Peter Drucker in 2014, saying that entrepreneurs are risk takers. You have lifestyle entrepreneurs who start businesses that coincide with things that they enjoy in life. So in this case, it could be somebody who makes surfboards because they want to go surfing half the day, or somebody who's in the golf industry and they want to play golf or cricket, right? So again, lifestyle entrepreneurs, they're generating just enough income to, again, feed themselves and put a roof over their head, but it's also allowing them more freedom to do something that they like and something that they enjoy. Income replacement entrepreneurs, it's creating a venture to supplement their income. And again, this is the majority of entrepreneurs that exist in the world. It's creating a business. Entrepreneurs, is innovating within a business. So if you're working in a company and you develop something that's new, something that's state of the art, whatever, if you're innovating within a business, that is an entrepreneur. Social entrepreneurship is creating businesses with a motivation to help people or organizations, etc. And it's more of those feel-good opportunities that you're trying to capitalize on and help the people around you, whether it's your local community, regional community, or international community. And then, of course, civic entrepreneurship is very similar to social. Now, here are some of the myths, some of the things that are not necessarily true about entrepreneurship. And as you can see, visionaries. Not all entrepreneurs are visionaries. In fact, a lot of the times well, at least when I'm talking, you'll find that it's really just satisfying a need, a want, or a desire when it comes to developing or creating a business. It doesn't matter whether you're developing in India, Canada, China, wherever. Developing an idea or satisfying a need, a want, or a desire, that's what you're doing when it comes to creating a business. A lot of the times businesses are created to solve problems. So entrepreneurs are not always these visionaries that have a crystal ball and can see deep into the future. That's not the case. They're very much just like you and I. I myself, I'm a 5th generation entrepreneur. I've owned 7 businesses. I've started and owned and operated 7 businesses, anywhere from business consulting to landscaping to video production company. So I'm nobody special in particular. I just start businesses, right? And it's all on seeing an opportunity in the marketplace and creating a business around that. Not all entrepreneurs are risk takers, right? You might simply have a copycat business, and I'll go into a little bit about what that is. Not everybody is born an entrepreneur. And again, this was discussed earlier. This argument's been going on, at least in academia, for over 100 years. Are entrepreneurs born? Are they made? Are they created? Can we teach entrepreneurship? And that really comes down to your understanding or your belief on the psychology behind entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. So not all entrepreneurs are born. You can learn how to be an entrepreneur, but at the end of the day, it is up to you to take that next step and start that business or, go forward with it. So what are ideas? An idea is a thought or collection of thoughts that generate in the mind. An idea is usually generated with intent, but can also be created unintentionally. Ideas often form during brainstorming sessions or through discussions. And for the students that are here with us today, a lot of the times it's important to give your mind a rest. And so if you enjoy playing cricket, if you enjoy playing whatever, or going out for walks or doing gardening, it's important to do those secondary tasks, because when you allow, and there's quite a bit of research on the psychology of this, but when you allow your brain time to relax, that's actually when you'll start to do your best thinking, even if it's happening subconsciously. So it's important as a student, as a person, to give your mind a rest, to do things that you enjoy, because again, that will help spark creativity and ideas. It's important that ideas are reflexive. And what that means is you can look back at them, you can sit back, you can look at, the whole scenario of what that idea revolves around. They can be spontaneous, and sometimes ideas are good, sometimes they're bad. It's important to recognize when we have bad ideas. Can we change? Can we pivot? Can we adapt those ideas to make them better? So again, what is a good idea? It's different or it's better, right? It delivers value. At the end of the day, one of the greatest things that we're trying to do as business owners, or as business people in general, is creating value for the customer. Why is the customer going to spend their hard-earned money on your products or services, right? So these are the things that we need to develop and create, is value. And I'll get into value a little bit shortly, but it's not just, I have a couple add-ons to my product, or my product is a better color. That no, value is connecting to people on an emotional level. It's convincing people on an emotional level to buy into your idea into your business. Make sure the idea is doable, which means it can work. It has an acceptable cost benefit. You could pour millions and millions and millions of dollars into, a rocket ship, but it might not be beneficial to you at the end of the day if you're not going to recover any of that money back. Unless, of course, you're a trillionaire or billionaire like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, who just have money to burn. But for most of us, there has to be an acceptable cost benefit. It has to be measurable, right? If we wanted to create a teleportation device, go into this machine and transport me in Canada to India right now with all of you, that's not really realistic. And you can't really measure that because it's not feasible yet, right? The technology isn't there yet. And you'll find a lot of your ideas too. They might be exceptional ideas. They might be fantastic ideas, but the technology, the scenario, the situations might not be advanced enough for that idea to work. And that's fine. Just make sure you have that idea written down. You have it, tucked away somewhere special, and you can come back to that maybe in a couple years' time. So where are opportunities? Right. And again, as I touched on before, it's needs, wants, and desires. And to go a little bit deeper into that, needs are things that are essential to life. Food is a need. Clothing is a need. Shelter is a need. Now, wants, on the other hand, a want is something that's not, it's a little bit evolved from a need. So I want to have a blue door instead of a white door, right? You need a door regardless. But a want is something that's a little bit more that you are hoping for. Desire is jewelry, for example. Do you need a gold watch? Not necessarily. Any watch would do, but you desire a gold watch. Diamond is the perfect example of a desire, right? So a good idea, or an idea in general, period, is usually satisfying a need, a want, or a desire. And it's important for you to recognize that, because that's how you're going to structure and frame your business around that concept, around that idea. Because you can't sell, say we're selling rice, for example, which is a commodity. I mean, you're dealing in tons and tons and tons of rice. You can't structure your business like a desire, like you're selling diamonds, when in actuality, you're just selling rice, which is a commodity. So you usually have a low pricing strategy, that sort of thing. So it's important to understand where your idea fits within needs, wants, and desires. Again, here's an example here, the digital airline boarding pass. I interviewed the two creators of this technology, actually, two Scottish fellows. And a lot of the time I'll ask people, so, what was their background? What kind of person or people do you think they were? And a lot of the times they'll say computer programmers, something to do with technology, something to do with engineering. Well, in actuality, these two gentlemen were accountants and they worked for Deloitte. So they're corporate accountants. What happened was they were sitting in Heathrow Airport with their tickets in their hands, saying that there must be a better way than just having this paper ticket. Everybody is walking around with a smartphone. There must be a better, easier way to get this airline ticket. And so they developed this application. And the other important, when it comes to starting a business, is always finance, is always capital. How do you raise money? And the important lesson from these guys is they took the idea to airline companies and they said, look, if you invest into our business idea, X amount of thousands of dollars, I think it was $5,000 per company, we'll give you this application at a discounted rate. And what's important is, and this is where the value part comes in, they explained to these airline companies that they would save millions of dollars of not having to buy printer paper, not to have printer kiosks, by using this digital platform, because everybody already has a smartphone. So again, they sold that value. And inevitably, three major airlines did give them the money to get this started. And a handful of years later, they sold it for millions of dollars. So the important part to grasp here is you don't have to be a specialist to come up with $1 million idea. these guys were literally sitting in an airport pub saying that there's got to be a better way than having a paper ticket. And the other part of the lesson here is get creative when it comes to finding funding for your businesses. It's not always, you don't always have to go to a bank. You don't always have to go to, if you're lucky enough, a venture capitalist or an angel investor or your mom and dad. You know, there are other ways of raising capital. Here's just another example of innovation at its best. These, the individuals that own this company, basically they wanted to be more fashionable when they were riding their bicycles. I believe it was in Sweden. And so what this technology is, it has a sensor within the jacket. And if you fall forward, the helmet will, that's a helmet on the top of that one jacket, but the helmet will deploy and it'll save the person's head. So it's just another way. Does everybody want to buy this jacket? No, but some people might want to buy this jacket. And are they willing to pay X amount of money for this jacket? Possibly. And that's where our business plan, we would look into that and figure that out. Agriculture is seeing a huge, huge boom in technology advancement. No longer are you just driving up and down. Basically, you put everything into a computer and the computer does it for you. So certainly, technological advances in crop management software. The point of the last three examples is to show that technology is advancing, different industries, which are traditional industries such as farming, are advancing. And so there's lots of opportunity there. And again, as I said, quite often, you're simply solving a problem. What problems are you facing right now that you can create a solution for? Can you create a business around solving that problem? Right? Another thing to keep in mind too is, what do you enjoy? What's your passion? And more or less, can you build a business or can you do something around that passion? A lot of the time, I'm an exit researcher. So in the grand scheme of entrepreneurship, I look at the very end of entrepreneurship and what causes people to leave their business and exit their business. And I can tell you that a lot of the time it's because of burnout. It's because of stress. It's because of just being frustrated with the business. And so if you're doing something that you actually enjoy and that you're passionate about, it automatically increases the chances or likelihood of your business surviving. A key stat that we have in North America is 50% of businesses fail within the first 3 years of starting. So that's a lot of businesses. And another thing to remember too, my role with the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is the largest research center in the world on entrepreneurship. I'm part of Team Canada. And there was literature coming out recently too, that you have to remember over 95% of the businesses operating in the world are micro, small, or medium-sized enterprises. And depending on the country that you're in and how you judge that scale, it's anywhere between 0 employees to 250 employees. So the majority of businesses that are operating in the world, whether it's India, Canada, et cetera, are micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. So do keep that in mind. It's not always about corporations. It's not always about large companies. It's quite literally the opposite. It's small businesses that are driving the economies, especially in Canada, where 80% of the economy is micro, small businesses that are private. You don't need $1 million to start $1 million idea. I love this slide. I'm not sure if you can recognize these in India. I'm guessing Amazon, yes, Google, Hewlett-Packard, Walt Disney. Well, these 4 businesses all started in these exact garages. So that was Walter Disney's garage. You can see Google on the bottom right, Amazon, Hewlett-Packard. They all started in garages. And when it comes to business failure, that's one of the things that I can't stress enough. Start with what you need, not what you want. And what that means is keep your costs as low as possible in order to try and get that break even as quickly as possible. So you have an idea. What do you do now? Well, first and foremost, make sure you write it down. Write it down somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's on paper, in your phone, write it down somewhere because you don't want to forget it, right? The next step then is to conduct a little bit of research. Take a look at, the local area where you're operating in. Will the idea work? Test your idea with outside sources. And the best advice I can give you on this is don't ask your mom and dad, don't ask your friends. When we're looking at networks, we divide it into weak networks and strong networks. Strong networks are those who are emotionally close to us. That's our friends, family, mom, dad. Those are not the people you want to ask, because quite often they'll tell you, a lie. They'll say, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's brilliant. You don't want to do that, okay? Ask people like your professors, ask people that are other business people, right? What do you think about this idea? And it's more likely that they'll give you the truth as to, well, that idea might need a little bit more work, or have you thought about using that idea in this area or this industry? So again, it's very, very important that when you're testing your idea and seeing if it's going to work, to actually talk to people that have no emotional connection to you, because it's likely that they'll be more honest. At least in Canada and North America and Asia, I found that. Okay. Develop a timeline, business plan, and stick to it. It is very, very important, I believe, to do somewhat of a business plan. You don't have to do a fully blown business plan, but you do have to do some research to make sure that the business idea works, right? Whether it works in a local area, regional, international, etc. But you have to do a little bit of research to make sure that it will work. If you don't, it could cost you a lot of money, it could cost you a lot of time, and it could cost you a lot of stress and effort, right? So after doing those steps, you have to determine, do I start the business or do I not? And it's okay if the business is not feasible. I have business ideas weekly, although I still love doing my professor stuff. I still think of different business ideas, and you'll get to learn which ones are feasible, which ones are not feasible. You could have a brilliant idea, but you really just don't want to do it because that's not what excites you, right? So again, make sure that you're passionate about it, make sure that you're committed to it, because it is something that you will do probably 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I don't prescribe that, but being a business owner, a lot of it falls on you because you are the owner. So things to think about. Different ways of measuring goal setting. So there's the SMART tactic, there's the SWOT analysis, right? I'm not going to go overly in depth in those, and I believe this is being recorded anyway, so you can go right back through the slides if you want to go through those. Different methods of discovering business ideas, networking, talking to people, right? The more you get out there, the more you see, the more you visualize, the more you can recognize what works and what doesn't work. And especially within a global context, right? Especially with COVID now, the world is changing, right? The world will never be the same. And right now, at least in the research that we're conducting on business decline, exit, startup, et cetera, you have those who are doing very well and those who are not doing well. So getting yourself out there, even if it's in a digital context, because right now, at least in Canada, we're quite restricted in mobility. But you can see that, at least in our area, hand sanitizer went through the roof when COVID hit. Any wood products, any distribution products, any manufacturing products, raw materials, raw goods. It's being able to see the foresight of what's going to happen within your area. Like, to give you an example, last summer, when all of this was coming to fruition, I built houses before I started in academia, and renovate houses. So when COVID-19 hit, a lot of people here were worried about getting toilet paper. I was worried about getting lumber to finish my deck or to build my deck, because I knew lumber would be a shortage. Lumber, pulp, et cetera. If COVID-19 hits the manufacturing facilities, they have to close down. And then again, that's a simple supply and demand issue. And you're going to take economics in your business courses here. So if the supply drops and the demand increases, the price of those products are going to skyrocket, which is what we saw. We saw over a 70% increase in lumber, for example, in Atlantic Canada, right? That's part of observing. The network or the discovery skills, it's observing, it's being able to see what's going to happen. And again, education is a very important part of that. Question everything. right? Challenge everything. If somebody's telling you something, ask yourself, is that true? Is that real? Can we change that? Can we adapt that? Experiment, try things, right? And association. A lot of the times, WD-40, I'm not sure if you have WD-40 grease where you are, but long and short of it, somebody was working in a not pharmaceutical, but a chemical company. And the WD-40 was targeted to be something else. The guy was opening and closing his door and it was making a squeaking sound. It was making a really annoying sound. So he took this can of stuff on his desk, which was going to be rejected, and he just tried it. He sprayed it on the hinges, whatnot, and all of a sudden the squeak is gone. And that was the development of a new product for that company, which was WD-40 grease. So it's association, it's, trying to figure things out. There's a couple pharmaceutical pills here. There's a blue pill that men like to use. That was actually originally supposed to be a heart pill. And then they found that it had, certain consequences with men. And all of a sudden you have the development of a new product, right? It wasn't necessarily targeted to do that, but that was the byproduct of it. So that's part of experimenting, associating, questioning, right? Observing, networking, all of that goes into business ideas. Discovering inadequacies in the market, right? Value chains, it's always looking at where the value is and how can you add more value to a situation. It's always like the example of taking a piece of iron. Well, you can make it into a horseshoe and sell it for $5. You can make it into cutlery and sell it for $40. You can make it into needles and sell it for $1,000, right? It's the same raw material, but you're finding more ways of getting the value out of that product. Secondary and supporting activities. Again, this is just other ways of looking at different manufacturing methods or different processes to see where you can create and adapt and develop within those processes. Just a schematic here on how business ideas work. So you create an opportunity or you spot an opportunity. You're looking at what the market needs, wants, or desires. And then again, you have to look at the practicality of whether or not that is feasible, right? So when we're looking at creating a business, it's a pretty linear process. It's not that overly difficult. And again, this is from the Paul Burns textbook, and I've refined it a little bit, but yeah, business idea, then you look at the market segments and value propositions that you're going to offer your customers, your marketing strategy, operations plan, risk and strategic options, financial plan, and you have to make the decision of whether or not to take action. Within that entire process, you have resources available and resources needed. As a micro business owner, so if you have no employees, your resources are likely to be very limited. So how can you maximize different opportunities around you in order to create more resources or acquire more resources? And it could be as much as, doing a co-venture with another company. It might be getting, a couple of friends together to help you, right? I'm just going to go through each of these sections briefly. So market segments and value propositions. Market segments are the groups of people you're trying to sell to. So right now, if I had a skateboarding company or, even we'll stick with skateboarding, younger people, right? So I'm probably targeting anywhere from 10-year-olds to 25-year-olds, right? That's a market segment. You could break segments down into many different types of demographics. You could break a segment down into men, women. You can break it down by religion. You can break it down by education, etc. So if I was selling women's clothing, for example, then my market segment would likely be women. And if it was wedding dresses, then it likely is women between the ages of 18 to 30. Right? These are all different types of ways of segmenting a market. The value proposition is the benefits they are looking for, right? So when any clothing company, for example, Adidas, Nike. The value proposition is not the fact that they're selling you tennis shoes or running shoes. The value proposition is when you see their brand, you're seeing the professional athletes that wear those clothes and represent those clothes. So you start to visualize and believe that you could be as awesome or as great as those athletes. And that's why you're buying into that value, why you're buying into those ideas of wanting to wear Nike clothing, etc. Industry is any group of firms that supply a market. So you have agriculture industry, manufacturing industry, pharmaceutical industry, right? A market is likely to comprise of a number of market segments, okay? So it could be the sporting market, sports clothes, could be food market, food industry. And within food, for example, you have, say, beef, you have lamb, you have fish, you have vegetables, you have vegan, you have etc. Right? And all the companies in an industry do not compete in every single market segment. And that's kind of what the last example that I'm talking about. So like the beef and cattle industry are not necessarily competing with the vitamin industry, which both could be within food. Just a brief example here. So this is an advertisement taken of Coca-Cola. And as you can see, Coca-Cola is trying to portray something that's exciting, something that's young. If you know your color theory, or for those who have taken marketing courses, red also represents excitement, energy. And so if we also look at this advertisement, the girl has a tattoo. She's also wearing wristbands. So she might be at a festival. She's in a convertible. Convertibles are fun. Her girlfriends are in the vehicle. So again, what Coca-Cola is trying to represent here is if you buy into this brand, if you buy into this beverage, you're a young person, an energetic person, you like to have fun, and you're one of the cool kids, right? So that's kind of what this advertisement is trying to represent. When we're looking at the market industry life cycle, you have a new business, or when you're just starting your business, growth, maturity, decline, and exit. I'm not going to go in depth into these stages, but this is kind of how a business starts and dies. A lot of companies die after the first generation. It's the more generations that take over businesses, at least in family succession, it's less and less likely. Okay, so inevitably, most businesses will start and die with the original owner. Different types of market concentration. So a fragmented market is you're competing against a lot of people, whereas a consolidated market is there's very few players in the market, right? In Canada, for example, a consolidated market is our telecommunication market. There's really only 4 major players: Roger, Telus, Bell, and there's one other one that's kind of hit and miss. Whereas a fragmented market would be any restaurant that's local, right? If you ever come into Prince Edward Island, first, make sure you stop in and say hi. But second, you'll see that we have a lot of restaurants. There's restaurants everywhere. So if you're to start a restaurant, you're competing against a lot of people. When we're looking at the market too, especially in terms of the global context right now, are you looking at a local area, a regional area, national area, or international, right? And something that I wanted to mention earlier, but I can mention it now, being from another culture, being from another country puts you at an advantage when you're traveling, right? Or when you move to another country, because you're aware of a lot of things that work in your area that might be able to be used in your new home. And I find that quite often with my international students here, coming from India, China, etc. You know, there's a lot of good things that work where their home is originally that could be applied in the new marketplace, say Prince Edward Island. Right. So it's always important, again, to keep your that awareness about you and see where you can capitalize on the market. When we're diagnosing the market size, penetrated market are your core key customers. Those are the people that keep coming back. Your served available market are those who do come to your business. They're not necessarily there every single week, but they do come to your business. The total available market are potential customers. And again, if I use Prince Edward Island, for example, if I'm in the major city that we have, Charlottetown, and you're going to laugh because it's only 30,000 people. So small little city, but it's our biggest one. But the penetrated market for, say, a bakery, right? My penetrated market is likely the Charlottetown area. Now, the surrounding cities of Charlottetown are Cornwall and Stratford. They're only about a 5-minute drive. And so that could realistically be my served available market. Now, the total available market is if I took a 25-kilometer radius around Charlottetown, just draw it around Charlottetown and look at all the small little cities, towns, and villages around that it's realistic to drive into, right? 25-minute drive isn't that bad here. But that would be my total available market. Whereas if we look at the entire province, that could be the potential market. It's equally applicable in a global context. So my penetrated market might be India. Now, what are the countries that surround in India immediately where that could be our served available market? Whereas the total available market might be all of Asia. Potential market could be North America, right? You might want to take something that your textiles, for example, and sell it into the United States, sell it into Canada, etc. Okay, different types of competitors that you're going to face. Direct competitors that are competing with you day in and day out. Indirect competitors that are selling something similar and your customers could substitute your product for theirs. Okay, so that's indirect. And future competitors are those that it's a different type of business, but they could end up in your marketplace. And it's sad to say it, but Amazon is one of those companies. They could literally do whatever they want because they have the resources to, right? So if I have, say, a restaurant that's serving pizzas, for example, there's nothing that could stop me from creating desserts as well, right? So I could be a future competitor to a dessert restaurant. So key questions you need to ask yourself: what drives competition? What are the different sectoral performance customer conventions? What are the main dimensions of competition? How intense is the competition? And how can you be different and obtain a competitive advantage? Remember, even if we're on a copycat type of business, what makes us a little bit better than our competitors? How are we adding a little bit more value to our customers to entice our customers? And once we have our customers, how do we keep them, right? And a big part of that is customer service. It's understanding why are they coming to our place in the first place, right? Is it because they like us, or is it because we're the only place in a 10, 20 kilometer radius that actually sells this product or service? So it's important to gauge and understand why they're coming to our business. Libison, just let me know if I'm running out of time so I can gauge how quickly to go through it. So what we're looking at here, you can just type it in the chat function, that's fine. These are the different types of businesses that exist fundamentally. Copycat business is a replica of all other types of businesses. Incremental product service innovation, which is we're doing something just a little bit better than our competitors. So we might be selling a vehicle with something else added on, right? Market development is you're growing that market. Disruptive innovation, market paradigm shift, and new to the world industries. The ones in the red are very common. Those are our typical businesses, whereas those in the green are very rare. And I'll just go through a couple examples. So Copycat Ventures on the top, you have Federal Express and the United States Postal Service. Both are shipping companies. Both take packages and deliver them. It's the same market, same industry, so they're competing on price, right? And the profits on copycat businesses are very, very low because you have to compete on price. And below again is Champion spark plugs versus Bosch spark plugs. Incremental product or service innovation. On the top, you have the regular bicycles, right? On the left is an old bicycle, whereas now they're building bicycles out of carbon fiber. Now you have electric bicycles, right? So you have that product or service innovation. And again, on the bottom there is a football. Market development, this example is Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola first started in one country. Now they're in 100 countries. No, sorry, 200 countries. So Coca-Cola has expanded from selling in just one country to now in selling over 200 countries. So it's that market development that they're going into. Disruptive innovation or invention. These are absolutely new, right? So they change the way that we work within the world. So it's going from candles to electricity, the invention of the automobile. And it doesn't always have to be a product, right? On the bottom left is insulin, the creation of insulin to help people with colds, infections, etc. So pharmaceuticals and remedies. Now, market paradigm shifts are interesting because they're taking something that is a traditional marketplace. And in the top example is budget airlines. So traditionally, and at least in North America, we have Air Canada, we have your major airlines, basically. But now in Europe, for example, you have this explosion of budget airlines that can get you from from A to B much cheaper. Another option is below traditional television. Now, I'm not going to, even try to explain how it works in India because I have no idea. But in North America, you had traditional television where there used to be 9 channels on your TV. Then you had the invention of cable TV, which brought it to 50 or 60 channels. Then you had satellite, then you had 700 channels. Well, now you have Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, where it's channels on demand. So you're actually getting to pick the content that you want. So you can see that it's always about television, but you can see the shifts in the marketplace. New to the world industries, again, the invention of the internet brought forth like Google, Facebook, Amazon, new to the world industries. In Canada, for example, we've legalized marijuana. So the legalization of marijuana is a new to, well, at least this country, industry, because that industry never existed before. And so now you have companies that are focusing on that, okay? As we're looking at this graph, at this table, the further you go to the right to new to the world industries, the greater investment it costs, right? So it costs very little to start a copycat business, but to start a new to the world industry, for example, being a marijuana producer, costs a substantial amount of money in comparison to just opening a grocery store, right? However, the same can be said about profits. The more you shift to the upper right quartile, right, the more profits you make. So as I said before, copycat businesses, you're very much competing on profits, and it's always about selling quantity versus making higher margins. But the more that you shift, so if you go to incremental product or incremental service, you get to charge that little bit more, so you have a little bit higher margins. So marketing strategy, this is usually we use the 5 Ps, product, price, promotion, place, people, and this is how to connect with your customers. And again, this is just Anheuser-Busch shifting from their traditional beverage to now offering craft beer, which is very different from their traditional platform, and offering different flavors and specializations of their beverages. Operations plan is the day-to-day activities of your business. These are the things that you need to do. If we have a bakery, for example, it's not just, oh, I need to bake bread. Well, no, you need to order flour, you need to order eggs, you need to pay for the utilities, you need to pay for the water, you have to make sure you have your legal counsel, you have to make sure your business is registered. So there's quite a bit that go into operating a business that a lot of my students and a lot of people that I'm helping with their business fail to see. And it is one of those things where when you actually start the business, you're going to have to learn very quickly, right? There's only so much you can learn in the textbook, but when you actually start your business, you are going to learn a considerable amount in a very short period of time, in a very quick period of time. Because if you don't, the business is not going to succeed. Okay, and risks and strategic options. It's always good to know what risks you're facing as a business owner, what could happen. At least in Atlantic Canada here in the wintertime, snowstorms are a very common thing. So we might have to shut down the business on if there is a snowstorm. Well, how does that impact our business? Can we move our business online? Well, if we're a bakery, not really. However, if we're a consulting business, absolutely, we can move everything online. So it's understanding what risks are facing your company and how you can get around those risks. Resources available needed. The three common resources that we have are social resources, which are strong and weak networks. Our strong networks help us with emotional support. So make sure you have a good few people that can help you with emotional support. Weak networks are those that help you with your business decision making. Those are the ones that can give you insight on, different decisions that you're thinking about, different decisions that you're going to make. Weak networks could be your lawyer, could be an accountant, could be a professor, could be a lot of people that don't necessarily have an emotional connection to you, but would have understanding or insight on what it is you're talking about. Human resources are the people that you hire, and financial resources is basically where you're getting your money from. Financial forecasts, without finances, accounting, taxes, that is really the backbone of your business. If you don't know how to do your finances, if you don't know how to do your accounting, you need to hire somebody who does. It's very important, but I need to stress that too. If you don't know, you need to learn enough to know it's being done right. Okay, or you're going to have to go to a very big accounting firm and hope that they do it properly. But accounting is extremely important, at least in North America and other parts of the world that I've been. Accounting is very important because it tells you whether you're doing well, whether you're doing poorly. You can also use those assets to leverage more funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So financial forecasts, accounting are very, very important for your business. I only have a handful more slides, so thank you for bearing with me this far. Hopefully it's been informative. Just going to touch a little bit on globalization now. So what does globalization mean to you? What does this mean in your country? How does this impact small business? Prospective global issues, right? We're all facing COVID-19 right now, your country more so than any other country in the world. How's that going to shape business? How's that going to shape, your day-to-day lives? And again, globalization has a significant part to that. When we're looking at COVID vaccinations, a lot of the vaccinations are made in your side of the world. And if the distribution or the channels are blocked or you can't get it out quick enough, how does that impact the rest of the world? The same thing goes for your business. If you have a custom t-shirt company like the one that we have here in just down the road, if there's a shortage, for example, in Texas, there was a deep freeze and a lot of the plants where you get the resin and you get the cotton were destroyed. So there's going to be a significant deficit in cotton. The lack of resin has an impact on the paint industry. So you can see that with the invention of the airplane and boats now, not now, like for the last almost 100 years, the world is getting smaller. And as the world gets smaller, impacts in different parts of the world or different events that happen across the world are going to impact your business. And so what are you going to do about that? How can you get around those issues? How can you make sure that your business is protected from those issues? A little bit more information, the movement of goods, ideas, values, and people around the world. Again, that's what we're discussing. So first used in the early 1950s to recognize the increasing interdependence of economies and societies around the world. So globalization literally means the world is getting smaller in a theoretical or in a figurative sense, because we're so interconnected now, and the internet communication is making the world absolutely smaller, right? Existed for centuries by way of evolving trade routes, including the slave trade, colonization, and immigration. Just a demo or a little figure here on trade flows. There we go. Globalization and tourism. So I picked one example, one industry that we could look at, and I don't know many more industries that have been as severely impacted as the tourism industry, especially here in Prince Edward Island, where we would have typically 2 million unique visitors each summer in July and August. Well, that's huge for a province. Our province only has 130,000 people. Now, I grew up in Ontario where there's 8-9 million people. Again, not that much, but significantly different areas, right? So if you have a small province such as Prince Edward Island, where you have a huge impact, like a lot of people live based on 2 million visitors, 2 million tourists. With COVID-19, that all stopped, right? What happens? My brother, for example, is a pilot for Air Canada. Air Canada, people stopped traveling. So Air Canada had to pivot. Not only did they lay people off, but they transitioned more to shipping. They transitioned more to they actually took seats out of the airplane to put more cargo in the airplane, right? So the impact of globalization and tourism, especially when you have a catastrophic event such as COVID-19, what are the impacts, right? Population and demographic trends. As the middle class in India continues to grow, it continues to have more money at their disposal. What do they want to do? What do you want to do, right? Do you want to travel? Do you want to buy a second car, a third car, etc.? How are you going to spend that extra disposable income? And if it is in tourism, is it going within the country? Is it going outside of the country? Right? How is that going to be affected? Terrorism, safety and security, other impacts on tourism. In 9/11, 2001, I believe, in the United States, when the Twin Towers came down, traveling in the United States has changed forever. I used to be in the States all the time prior to 2001. And it was significantly different after 2001 traveling within the States. In Canada, we used to just be able to go there with a birth certificate. After 9/11, we had to have a passport. So security is a big thing when it comes to tourism. Increased awareness of new destinations. And there's a lot of companies that make money off of this now, like Expedia, Travel Planet. Other companies are creating these awareness videos on traveling to these different parts of the world. And then last but not least, poverty, the impact of poverty with tourism. A couple photos here, again, just highlighting how easy it is to travel now. The top left, you have a steam engine, steam train, whereas on the top right now, that's the KTX in South Korea, which travels at over 300 kilometers an hour. Titanic on the bottom left versus cruise ships now, which are 5 times the size of the Titanic. And of course, the invention of the airplane. So it's much easier to travel now. International banking coincides with travel, coincides with tourism. So the flow of money is much easier now. We just have ease of access to it. I can use my Visa or my, well, American Express is a bit hit and miss, but I can use my Visa and my MasterCard almost anywhere in the world, right? So you have that flow of money across countries now. International currency exchange. When I was going to school in the United Kingdom, I would use TransferWise to exchange my Canadian dollars into British pounds. And the reason for that is, for example, through the banks, it would cost me about 5 to 7%. Through TransferWise, it cost me 3 to 4%. Now, if you're only spending $100, that doesn't mean anything, but I was spending anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 per year. Well, that's a savings of almost $1,000 to $3,000, depending on the different exchange rates at that time. So it just shows that, again, you have online banking now, and then of course you could put Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies, but the ease of access and the ease of flowing money across the world now is much easier than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Virtual travel agents, and I'm almost guaranteeing you have an iteration of this over in India, but here we have Expedia, Booking, and Kayak. Just a sample of the many different virtual travel agents. You don't have to go to an individual anymore. You can do it all yourself online. Online reviews, very important for your business, right? It's understanding what you're doing right, but also what you're doing wrong. And if there's issues, the best thing about collecting data and information about customers and their reviews is if there's a continuous if there's a continuous problem that keeps coming up, if you can solve that problem, then that's another product you can sell to the customers, right? Or it's at least a problem that can solve your original issue, and so people will be much more happier, and hopefully you can boost those sales again. That's part of product and service creation. Product 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 is collecting that data, collecting that information from your customers, learning from them. What do they like? What do they dislike? And then developing based on that information. Basically, the statistics here all stipulate that people are very much paying attention to online reviews, and they're making decisions based on those reviews. Global population, there's more older citizens over 60 years old than there are children. Okay, developing, and that's in the developed world. Developing world, there's not expected to occur until the middle of this century. So again, younger people versus older generations expected to widen between the richer and poorer countries. Okay, so wealth distribution. This is a little excerpt on Canadian apparel consumers, basically what they're looking for. And one quick example here, a local company, their target market is 16 to 35-year-olds, but they weren't selling anything that was sustainable. They weren't selling anything that was environmentally friendly. And that's a big thing that millennials and younger generations are looking for in Canada right now. So I suggested, why don't you transition to this kind of material, this kind of deliverable? They did, and they've actually increased their sales by 30% in COVID. So it's just one of those things that if you talk to people, especially people who have an understanding of the different markets and trends, could be very advantageous to your company. Just a little bit about Generation X and Generation Y. Those under the age of 38 years old owning a smartphone and actually using it as a payment tool. Amazon saw this trend a couple years back and started convincing people more and more and more to use their phone to pay for things, because it's very easy to pick up your phone and buy something. It's more difficult to drive to the store, look through the store, et cetera, et cetera. So they're actually accelerating the purchase procedure, right? They're accelerating our ability to buy things. And so that's something that you want to anticipate and keep in mind as well when you're starting your business. How are you going to actually collect money? How are you going to help people pay for these types of things? Just a table here on the different characteristics of Generation X, Y, and Z and the baby boomers. You can get information on different cultures, especially when it comes to business information from the world business culture. The example I used here is Egypt. I did some teaching in Egypt last semester. And there's a lot of great information there on that type of culture, or the country that you're looking to get into or expand to. Lewis's model, again, take this with a grain of salt. It's just a generalization of how countries behave and act. Blue as in, linear, cool, factual, versus red, who are very emotional. And again, you see a lot of the Latin countries and Mediterranean countries around the emotional side of it, whereas you see a lot of European, say Germany, Switzerland, Luxembourg, that are around those cool, factual, decisive individuals. India is orange, right between the middle between being emotional, courteous. As I said, I've never had such a lovely welcome in my life, so I'm always coming back. Diversity wheel, again, a little bit more different types of topics and things that you can think about when you're looking at breaking into different cultures, different countries, different groups of people. Things to think about that you can appease to, or you can satisfy, or you can help with. E-business, we've talked about this a little bit already, and it's simply what kind of platform are you going to create? Are you going to have a website? Are you going to have an application? You don't have to, but more and more people are transitioning to online. And how are you going to manage that, right? Are you going to do it all through Google, for example? Here has CRM, they have the supply chain management functions. So what are you going to do? The different components of e-business. And then again, the pillars of e-business. So the last three are all interconnected. They're all driving the same kind of ideology: infrastructure, customer, product innovation, profit loss. They all combined, they're all connected, right? They don't operate outside of each other. They all have some part, and they all play some role within your business and trying to deliver a product or service. Now, again, the thing that I can't stress enough is when you're starting your own business, probably you're not going to have any employees, or you'll have a few employees. So the things that I'm telling you right now are actually quite advanced when it comes to starting, managing, and operating a business. But try and remember these things. And the most important thing I can tell you is, if you don't know, then ask somebody, find help, find information. And in my own research, when it comes to micro and small business owners, some of my most successful entrepreneurs are very good at asking for help, right? And recognizing when they don't know, or they don't have that information, to find somebody with that information. Different types of commerce. So you have business to business, customers to business, government to business, and the iterations within. Which model are you going to pursue? How are you going to set up your business? And then there's some references. And that's what I have.
Thank you so much, sir, for the elaborate keynote address.
I don't know if I ran over time, but it's you can just talk about it for days. Like, entrepreneurship is so extensive, and there's so many different things that we can talk about. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and the love for the subjects made you to make this particular presentation in this conference. We understand that. Shall we take some questions from the audience?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If people have questions, fire away.
Yeah, let's see. So we open the floor for interaction with the resource person. Those who want to interact, if you have any questions in your mind, you can.
And I apologize, because it is a lot of information. It's tough to and I've been in these situations before. You're trying to listen to it all, and you're trying to, well, I have this question and this question, but anything that pops to mind. I mean, I deal with this day in and day out, not only at an academic level, but I help a lot of students and people create businesses. So it's
we try to take some questions. So the floor is open, and thank you so much, sir. I know this time at your end is early morning, I guess.
That's okay. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's sunny somewhere.
Oh my God. So still you are here with a lot of energy and a smile on your face, addressing our audience. So let's see if any questions from the audience. Anyone? based on the presentation, if you have any questions, you can directly ask.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
How many people in the audience are actually interested in starting a business? Not necessarily now, but maybe at some point.
Yeah, that's a good question. So our students in the audience can, if you want to speak, you can.
And the question could even be, have you ever thought about it? Because I'll tell you, a lot of the time, what I run into is younger students. They don't know what they want right now, right? And so the best advice I can give you is be a sponge, learn as much as you can. And the other advice I can give you too is don't be afraid to work for somebody for 3 or 4 years. Get that experience, get that understanding, and then start your business, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's not, as an entrepreneurship professor, advocate, etc. I'm not saying, oh, you got to start a business. No, get as much information as you can. And then when you see an opportunity, when you see somewhere where, you start to feel comfortable and, hey, I can actually do this, then start your business.
Yeah, one of the barriers we face here, sir, in India, our students, they study to work.
Mm-hmm.
Once you complete your campus life, they try to get a job and be in the job for next 20, 30 years. That's the kind of frame of mind for students.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And as I said, you'll find though, at year 4, 5, or 6, some of you are going to start to think, you know what? I can actually do this better. And that's where your business starts, right? If you can, and as I said, like if we go right back to the original definition, if we look at Israel Kirzner's definition, you don't have to create something new. If you can take something that exists and make it better, that's a business, right? And when it comes to entrepreneurship and employment, there's two, right? Entrepreneurship, employment. Entrepreneurship, you're creating wealth. Employment, you're making a salary or a job. That's it. So you're capped, right? Your salary might only be $20,000 a year. Whereas an entrepreneur, you don't know where it could be. It could be 20,000, could be 10,000, could be 100,000, right? So there's no limitation on the amount of money you can make. But again, it takes a little bit of courage, a little bit of understanding. And that's why I say, yes, absolutely, go work for somebody, right? And when you do recognize that opportunity, take it.
Yeah, we have a question, if you can see in the chat box.
Yeah. We must find potential markets. So are we to introduce logistics along with entrepreneurship?
Neha Francis is asking it. She is our first year student, BCom Finance.
Okay. So is this the question, sir? You told that while starting a business, we must find potential markets. So are we to introduce logistics along with entrepreneurship? That's a good question. You could, you don't necessarily have to. When you're starting a business, you have to find an idea, right? And it's the old chicken or egg concept. Did the egg come first or did the chicken come first? And what I mean by that is there's two ways. One, you can create the idea and try and make it work in the marketplace, or you can be in the marketplace and find the idea there, right? So there's two different ways of approaching that business, either business model.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That was an excellent question. And it's a tricky one, right? So you don't always, and this is the best advice I can give you, you don't always have to come up with an idea and make it work somewhere. Work somewhere and you'll see an inefficiency. And believe me, human beings were not the most efficient people on the planet, right? There's always somewhere where we can exploit an opportunity and create a business around that. And that will help you identify where your logistics need to be.
Yeah, we have one more question in the YouTube chat box. The question is raised by Blenit Babu of our final year BCom Finance student. She asks, our needs affect the business. So needs translate to business. That's the question She is trying
Yeah,
to.
do needs affect the business as the business operator, I'm guessing? And yes, absolutely it does. And with my own research, those who are starting a business, say part-time, one of the greatest needs that you have is providing food and shelter for yourself. And if the business is not doing well, then you're not going to be able to create that money. And so your personal needs will not be satisfied. And quite often in that case, people will leave entrepreneurship to try and find employment, right? So the best advice I can give you in that context is, if you can't start your business full time, it's very difficult to have a successful business part-time. So you either have to do it or don't do it at all, or create the business and have somebody else manage it, right? So you have those two different opportunities.
Yeah.
And hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else? Is there any other question?
Entrepreneurs are very useful for women. Is there a classification of what they should and should not do to start a successful entrepreneurship? What are the first things entrepreneurs need to look out for? Great question. So women are exceptional entrepreneurs, and I'll tell you what the greatest challenge here in Canada is. The greatest challenge for female entrepreneurs here is access to financing, access to money to get their business started. And so consequently, what we're finding is, at least what I'm finding, is our female entrepreneurs are even better than a lot of their competition, because they're forced to find ways to find funding or to find all these other different opportunities. And so they're actually building their skills at an accelerated rate in comparison to others, like men, for example. Female entrepreneurs are phenomenal. Here's another thing. Men, women, people, we don't all think the same. We look at things differently. So your perspective might be very different than others, right? So it's important to take that experience and use it to your ability. Like if you ask me to design women's clothes, they would be the worst women's clothes on the planet, because I don't get that, right? Whereas you might have a lot of great insight into what works. And I'm not talking just colors, I'm talking the cut of them, the form of them, what's easy to move in, what's easy to do whatever you need to do in them. Right? You have that understanding and knowledge that others like myself would not necessarily have. So is there a classification of what they should and should not do to start a successful entrepreneurship? I'm not sure if you're talking about female entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general, but I'll stick with entrepreneurs in general, because female and male entrepreneurs often make the same mistake. And that mistake is starting the business with what they think they want instead of what they need, right? And in a simple sense, the easiest way to explain that is start with the least amount of things that you need, because you have to keep your costs down. If you're buying all these things, and here's an example. Excuse me. When I started my video production company, I made a few massive mistakes, big mistakes. And one of them was I was buying multiple cameras. I bought a lighting kit. I bought microphones. I bought all this stuff because I thought I was going to do commercials, short videos, this and that. Well, I underestimated my competitors, how many competitors were in the market. I thought there were only 10 competitors. There was over 50, right? So there was not a lot of space. And again, when we're talking about markets, it's a fragmented market, lots of competition. So I was forced to do something that I didn't necessarily want to do. And I was doing safety videos in manufacturing companies. Well, I can accomplish the same thing with a smartphone as I could with two $10,000 cameras that really weren't needed. So I ended up spending $40,000 on equipment when I could have just spent $1,000 in equipment, right? And so the important thing to recognize in my mistake, in my failure there, is get the job first, or get the contract or whatever it is that you're developing. Get that first, and then you can kind of build your logistics and what you need around that. So that way you can keep your costs low. The more you can keep your costs low, the more successful you're going to be. And the greater, you got to remember too, if you have more money to work with, the greater you can grow and build the business, right? That's one more piece of advice I can give you. Try and grow your business slowly. Grow it, or what we call is organically, because if it grows too quickly, you might not have the financing to keep up with that. But the golden rule that I have for all entrepreneurs is start with what you need, not necessarily what you want. Keep your costs as low as possible and make do, right? If you just need to get the item from point A to point B, you could do it in a regular vehicle or a tuk-tuk, whatever. Do you need a Maserati or a Ferrari to drive it there? No, you don't. You just need a vehicle to get it from point A to point B. So keep your costs as low as possible. And the first things that entrepreneurs need to look out for is good advice. Build your networks now as students. And this doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a student, whatever. Build your social networks now. And I'm not talking Instagram, social media. No, I'm talking about your weak networks. Make sure that you're talking to people in the field that you want to get into, that are around the field that you want to get into, and build your network, because connections and networks are everything. Cool?
Yes, sir. So we would love to sit and hear you for next 24 hours, but we have the limitation of time.
Yeah, hey, no problem.
Our time is almost up. So once again, thank you so much for your presentation. And I hope our students and research scholars and faculty enjoyed it. And it was, the flow of the presentation was very smooth for our audience. And
if any of your students have questions, feel free to shoot me an email. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So I will share your mail to our audience. And
perfect.
Whenever you make a trip to India, let me know, and we make sure that you visit our campus in Kerala.
Yeah,
College.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm allowed on a plane.
Yes. So let me ask my anchor to come in.
Thank you, sir. As well as I told you earlier, your smile is spreading too much of positive energy to receive it. Can you what's more, sir?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To express my sincere pleasure, I would like to welcome Fenita Joy. Please, Fenita, come on to the screen.
Hello, once again, greeting to all here. I'm sure that all have you enjoyed this session. On behalf of Department of Commerce and Aloysius College, I'm happy to offer words of thanks to Professor Dr. Matthew Pauley, sir, who handled the section effectively. We are grateful that you made time of your busy schedule and managed to spend quality time with us. Thank you for inspiring and encouraging us with your words on the special day. We also appreciate your immense support for making the webinar success. We have keenly listening to your words and feel richly informed by the knowledge you share. Let me thank you once again, sir, for your time and presence. And I extend my thanks to Ms. Betsy Paul, the principal of our St. Aloysius College, for providing immense support to make the webinar successful. I extend my special thanks to Libson, sir, and Regidamus from the Commerce Department to organize the webinar even amidst the pandemic. I must thank the organizing team volunteers for working hard for the past few days to make this webinar. Thank you everyone once again to making this great success. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir. And it's an end, officially ending of the session. And we'll go for a break right now. And we'll be back after a little break. And we'll see you soon at 1 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. I catch you on LinkedIn. Okay, thank you.
Sounds like a plan. Just email me anytime I'm around. And as I said, as soon as that.
Email ID right now in the chat box so that our audience can note it down.
Yep, I'll put it right here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Libison. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I catch you later. So we formally end this session. Thanks a ton for joining us during this midnight at your.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for listening.
Sacrifice your sleep today for us. And
That's okay.
for making the keynote address. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.